On the 20th of March 2025, over the skies of the Red Sea, a swarm of small unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, emerged suddenly from the horizon, moving fast, flying low, and heading straight toward a critical strategic corridor of the U.S. Navy. These drones were launched from Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen. Though not large in size, they posed a significant threat to maritime traffic, radar systems, and U.S. forces operating in the region, whether armed or not. The order was issued with brevity: intercept. Within minutes, an F-18F Super Hornet from Strike Fighter Squadron VFA-11, known as the Red Rippers, took to the skies. But this time, something was different. Instead of deploying expensive missiles costing millions of dollars, the pilot opted for a far cheaper and surprising weapon: laser-guided rockets. The chosen system was the Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System, APKWS, originally designed for helicopters but now adapted for high-speed fighters, marking its first real-world combat test in this role. One by one, the UAVs were taken down quietly, without fanfare, but with deadly precision. Yet this isn't just a story of a single fighter jet or a routine intercept. It represents a shift in strategy, cost, and how the United States counters low-cost but highly dangerous threats. So why did the US pivot from pricey missiles to affordable laser-guided rockets? What made this engagement stand out from previous ones? And what does it mean for the future of aerial warfare? Let's break it down now. As the F-18F locked onto its targets, the nature of the engagement shifted. This wasn't the kind of combat most pilots train for: no dogfights, no supersonic chases, no stealth battles against radar. It was simpler, yet strangely unique. On the radar screen, the UAVs appeared as tiny, fast-moving blips with erratic flight paths, possibly programmed for swarm effects or to confuse automated defense systems on US warships. But this time, the Super Hornet didn't rely on ship-based defenses. It had its own solution. From beneath its wings, the pilot selected an unexpected option: a salvo of APKWS rockets. These weren't heat-seeking or long-range radar-guided missiles, but upgraded 2.75-inch Hydra rockets fitted with laser guidance. Light, cheap, and incredibly precise, this is why they're among the most widely used rockets globally. With the UAV targets locked in the sighting system, the pilot pulled the trigger. The first rocket launched smoothly, streaking across the sky with a controlled burst, nearly silent in its approach. It didn't detonate like a Sidewinder or leave a smoke trail like a Tomahawk. It simply hit its mark, and the target was neutralized. Then came the next UAV following the same sequence: lock, launch, impact, gone. APKWS proved not just accurate but shockingly efficient in post-mission analysis. Traditional missiles are overkill for small, drones expensive, heavy, and limited in quantity. With APKWS, pilots can carry more, engage faster, and save heavier munitions for bigger threats. What's striking about this encounter is its cost-effectiveness. In an era where military forces are judged not just by raw power, but by cost-to-kill ratios, using a $27,000 rocket to down a $20,000 UAV makes far more sense than firing a $400,000 missile. The Houthi drones stood little chance. Designed to exploit gaps in traditional air defenses with their small size, speed, and low cost, they now faced an equally agile and affordable countermeasure. The result is a weapon that can strike targets with an error margin of just a few inches, without the high cost or complexity of a full-scale missile. Even more noteworthy is the origin of APKWS. Initially developed for helicopters and light attack aircraft like the AH-64 Apache and AH-1Z Viper of the US. Marine Corps, it wasn't meant for high-speed fighters. But with the rising threat of drone swarms, the US Navy and Air Force saw immense potential in this budget-friendly rocket. Integrating APKWS into fighters like the F-18 isn't just a smart tactical move, it's a budgetary revolution in combat operations. Make no mistake, these rockets are deadly. They've been battle-tested in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. But on the 20th of March, their use against a drone swarm over open water from a high-speed fighter platform was one of the first publicly confirmed instances. This adaptability transforms APKWS from a mere weapon into a symbol of a new kind of air warfare. It's not always about being bigger or faster, it's about being smarter. For decades, U.S. fighters were built to tackle high-end threats like enemy jets, radar installations, or advanced missile systems. But in recent years, the battlefield has changed. The most common threat isn't another fighter but small, fast, hard to detect, and dirt-cheap UAVs. That's why the US had to rethink its response. Firing a $500,000 missile every time a drone nears a warship is unsustainable, not just financially, but in limiting how many engagements a pilot can handle per mission. APKWS changes that equation. With laser-guided rockets, a fighter can carry more weapons, fire faster, and respond proportionately to the threat. Instead of using a $400,000 missile to destroy a UAV cobbled together from cheap parts, pilots can deploy a $27,000 Rocketta smart match in both cost and effectiveness. But the benefits aren't just economic. Laser-guided weapons minimize collateral damage with their pinpoint accuracy, ideal for narrow targets. Modern threats aren't always complex. Sometimes they're just persistent. To win in that environment, you fight smarter, not just harder. The 20th of March event wasn't just about unveiling a new weapon. It showcased a shift in mindset. For decades, air combat was defined by speed, stealth, and power. Fighters were rated by speed, altitude, and missile sophistication. But as battlefields evolve, so do the metrics of success. Today, the most effective aircraft isn't always the priciest, but the one that can handle the widest range of threats with precision and economy. The APKWS strike over the Red Sea marks a turning point. It shows the US isn't solely focused on high-end dogfights or massive bombing campaigns. The future is adaptability. Missions now require instant shifts from tracking a high-speed jet to intercepting a small UAV. Laser-guided rockets like APKWS give pilots that flexibility. Instead of expending heavy firepower on big targets alone, pilots now have a middle ground weapon quick to deploy, precise, and without concerns of cost or overkill. This reshapes how future air engagements are planned. Rather than preparing for a single type of enemy, modern squadrons train for multi-layered threats from UAVs and fast boats to radar jammers and saturation drone swarms. They need weapons just as versatile. It's no longer just about dominating the skies. It's about managing airspace, controlling tempo, minimizing risk, and maintaining strategic advantage without unnecessary escalation. The US military understands the next conflict won't resemble the last. Pilots on missions today are being trained for a future where every trigger pull matters not just tactically, but financially and politically. Laser-guided rockets are no longer niche tools. They're becoming a frontline choice, shaping how America projects air power. When a US fighter downs an enemy UAV with a laser-guided rocket, it's not just a tactical win, it's a strategic message echoing far beyond the Red Sea. For the Houthis, the 20th of March intercept wasn't just a loss, it was a wake-up call. For years, they've exploited gaps in traditional defenses with cheap, mobile UAVs launched from remote locations. These aren't just for reconnaissance, they target commercial ships, oil facilities, and even allied warships. Their strength has always been in the cost-to-disruption ratio, spending $10,000 on a drone to force an opponent to burn $500,000 or even $4 million to stop it. But this time, the equation flipped. With APKWS, the US countered with a low-cost strategy without sacrificing precision or control, completely breaking the Houthi playbook. Proxy forces like Hezbollah, Iran-backed militias, and non-state UAV operators worldwide are watching closely. These groups rely on swarm tactics and asymmetric pressure to drain Western resources. The US response isn't bigger bombs, but smarter ones. You can hit us with drone swarms, but we're ready, and we don't need to spend millions to stop you. This shifts the risk-to-reward ratio for groups long assuming the US wouldn't react unless severely provoked. It also matters to nations like Iran, which supply UAV technology to the Houthis, betting that low-cost aerial harassment could restrain the US and project regional power. But now, that return on investment has backfired. A single F-18F with affordable precision weaponry neutralized multiple threats without requiring a full carrier strike. This efficiency makes escalation entirely in America's favor. Don't overlook US. Allies in the Gulf, East Africa, and the Indo-Pacific, who are watching America's response to UAV threats with growing interest. The use of APKWS demonstrates a scalable, adaptable, and rapidly deployable toolkit. It's not just about protecting warships, it's about safeguarding credibility of promise that threats will be met with proportionate but decisive force. In that way, the 20th of March event isn't just a military footnote, it's a strategic statement resonating across the region and beyond. The 20th of March encounter didn't end when the last UAV was downed. That was just the beginning. What unfolded over the Red Sea wasn't merely a victory, it was a resounding proof of concept. Now that the US has shown it can equip high-speed fighters with cheap laser-guided rockets, the question is how far this will go. Expect more American aircraft like the F-18, F-16, and A-10 to be fitted with APKWS for quick, efficient strikes against small mobile threats. It won't replace missiles or drones, but adds a new response layer, bridging the gap between overkill and economy. Carrier strike groups are also reassessing weapon configurations. Commanders now have a proven, scalable, flexible, and far more cost-effective option for prolonged engagements, especially in hotspots like the Red Sea, where threats are persistent, low-tech, and politically sensitive. Meanwhile, the Houthis may be reevaluating their UAV doctrine. Tactics once effective through cheap disruption via drone swarms are no longer a guaranteed pressure point. If each drone can be countered quickly and affordably, the incentive to deploy them starts to wane. Adjustments will be needed, perhaps stealthier UAVs, higher altitudes, or more GPS jamming. This cat-and-mouse game is far from over, and the US will keep adapting. This kind of flexible firepower aligns with evolving military doctrines like distributed lethality and adaptive force packages. It allows smaller units to operate independently with the right tools to handle fast-emerging threats without waiting for top-down support or approval for high-value missile use. The lesson here is clear. Modern warfare isn't just about raw power. It's about precision, cost, and tempo. With weapons like APKWS, the US has proven it can win on all three fronts faster, smarter, and cheaper. A US fighter, a swarm of UAVs, and a weapon system no one expected in this fight. The 20th of March wasn't about overwhelming force, it was about overcoming a threat swiftly, precisely, and without wasting a single shot. Laser-guided rockets like APKWS are changing the game not just for pilots, but for commanders, strategists, and anyone watching how modern warfare really plays out. In this new era, the side that adapts fastest often wins before the opponent can strike again. What do you think? Is this the future of air combat where cheaper, smarter weapons take over from missiles? Or is it the start of another arms race between UAVs and their counters? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We're always eager to hear your take. For now, signing off. See you next time.